How you doing? It's your girl Lauren. Welcome back to my channel. So today is part 2 of being a college D2 athlete. So if you all follow me on like any social media platforms, you would have noticed that I have not picked up a racket in like 3 months. Let me explain. There is no more women's tennis program at Fayetteville State University. And let me explain why. So if you saw part 1, then you would have known that COVID hit right at the beginning of our season. At the time, we were technically undefeated. And then we went home for spring break. That's how it has been every year. And then we come back, pick up the season where we left off. But this year was a little different. We came home for spring break. Got an email probably like midweek saying that they were going to extend spring break an additional week and then we'll come back to campus. Fast forward to the following week, they said, quote unquote, get your shit and get off camp. So we went to campus, moved all of our things out, came home, started online classes probably a week later. That was March. Comes April 8th. I received an email from the head athletic director at Fayetteville State University. I'm gonna tell you exactly what he said. He said, the only reason I opened the email because my government name was on it. Other than that, I don't check my school email, anything like that, because it's normally a campus-wide email that gets sent out. But this one had my name on it, so I was like, all right, bet, I'll just read it, keep it pushing. I assumed that they were going to like be like, hey, the season's over, we're going to try again next year. No. So it states, dear Lauren Clark, FSU athletics is entering a time where we must review our overall efficiency as a Division II program. CIAA meets the demands of our student body. While working closely with the CIAA and the university to ensure that our student athletes are the forefront of decisions during our strategic planning efforts, it is with great sadness that we end the women's tennis program here at FSU and eliminate it for after the 2020 spring fall semester. So that was like, what? And further in the email, it explains that we can be placed in the transfer portal, which is like this whole little, I don't even know how to explain it because I fully don't even know what it is. But it's basically where you are like a free agent or whatever, so forth. And we could upload, I guess, our profile, our stats, everything into the portal, see which school bites the bait or whatever. Yeah, I didn't do that. I did my own thing. And I remember this day so vividly because dad was in my room. I was in a family room and mom, what was mom doing? I think she was working that day. And I was like, Dad, they ended the program. He was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they ended the tennis program. So my family is close with the president of the booster club for FSU. He got on the phone with him and I was just like, I want to leave. I just want to leave. So we ended up reaching out to coaches at several different schools here in the same like conference, CIAA. And they wanted me. They've seen me play because I played against their teams or whatever. And they wanted me. I did all of this within like a 24-hour thing. I emailed them. They reached out. We talked. We had conferences. This, that, and the third. I didn't really talk to coach about what I was doing or what schools I was going to. She told me what schools I would be best at, this, and the third. And I took them into consideration. And a week later, the team coach and I, we got on a group me call And she just explained that it wasn't anything like we did. It wasn't what the team individually, it wasn't what we did. It was just a school. And I was like, yeah, fuck FSU. I'm gonna keep it pushing. So after that, I started texting Nisha, because like we do practically everything together. We're roommates, we played the same team, everything. And I was like, Nisha, I'm transferring. Let me know if you want to come with me so I can put your name in the hat too. She was like, I'm not leaving. I can't leave like this. Like, we made so many good friends at FSU. And yes, I did not want to leave them. At the same time, I was ready to go. I was like, I was fed up. I was done. I was like, you all just didn't give us a choice. So I procrastinated for like a month, 2 months, talking back and forth with the coaches, getting new offers, this and the third. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe she's right. Maybe we go this semester and then we just transfer in January when the second semester starts. So I had to put into a lot of consideration about my credits, relocation, would I stay on campus, off. It was just a lot. Then at the same time, I could not tour the campuses because of COVID. They were all closed. I could not reach the advisors because of COVID. They weren't in their offices. So I was like, okay. So comes a week before we're supposed to move in, I was still talking to the coaches. I was still, like, Nisha and I were still going back and forth. And then Nisha hits me with, I might not be coming back. I'm like, what do you mean you're not coming back? The whole point of me staying was because you were coming back. She was like, her coach at home was talking to other schools and thought this would be best for her. She didn't want to leave. She wanted to come back just like me. So I was like, okay, just let me know. At this point, it was too late to call up the coach and be like, hey, I'm coming this and the third. So during the semester at school, we both ended up going back. We both ended up being roommates. And that being roommates, that whole ordeal, because basically once you're a student athlete, you're like at the top of the food chain at the school. Yeah, we were not at the top of the food chain anymore. So everything that we didn't have to like press for or fight for, we had to fight for now. So Nisha and I were not going to be roommates. We were not going to be in the same dorm and so forth. So we had to fight the people in housing to make us roommates and to give us our room back. We ended up getting that, and it wasn't what we were originally supposed to have. We were supposed to be at the sports apartments that are across the street. Technically, it's off-campus apartments. We were supposed to be over there, and it was supposed to be us, and we were supposed to like keep it pushing. Like, we're still technically athletes. We're still getting our scholarship this year, so we still should get the same privileges. It didn't work out that way. So we ended up being at the same dorm we had sophomore year, which at this point we were okay with because the original dorm was awful. And we were going to have to share with 8 other girls. Yeah, no, we weren't going to do that. So we ended up being in the same dorm. I'm okay with that. We ended up being roommates. Then we kept contemplating on, are we staying or are we leaving? So we ended up emailing basically every important person on campus. We emailed our athletic advisors, the head director of the athletic department, the director of, what is his job? I don't even know. It was just important people, and the chancellor. We ended up sending an email. We got a response back immediately. He stated that all we had to do was ask if we wanted a meeting this, that, and the third. We didn't have to go to the lengths that we did to have a formal meeting. I was like, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. Nisha and I ended up going to the meeting. I had told them I had a meeting that day at work, so I got off right at 2 o'clock when the meeting was started. Nisha met me there. Jayla, which was the last remaining girl that would be affected by like what's happening, we FaceTimed her on my computer because she was staying, like she stayed at home because all her classes were online. I talked to my mom before I went into the meeting. She had other things going on, so she can like be on the phone call. Nisha's mom was on the phone call, and he sat down and he gave us a little like 10-page little booklet or whatever explaining why the program ended. And on the page it showed statistics of what sports were popular at the time. They took the survey in 2015. We didn't come to school till 2018. So he explained to us like tennis was one of the lowest programs, with what is it, beach volleyball or something, which we don't even offer at our school. Majority of the sports that was on that paper we don't offer at school. And he explained that it was a survey done by the early college that goes to our school. Do they go to any of our sports? No. They just go for classes, then leave. And they took it with the business department, which was, it didn't add up why you're using your numbers against us that were from 2015. Wasn't even the students that went to the school that took the survey, nor was it actual students that participate in a sport or do any extracurricular activities. So we were like, how is this relevant, this, that, and the third? And he was like, it's just statistics, it's just what we went by, yada yada yada. So in my mind, I'm like, if you knew this in 2015, why would you bring in a actual tennis coach? I think she was there a year or two before she recruited us. And then you bring in actual tennis players to your school if you were going to cut us off in the middle. That to me was completely stupid. It still doesn't add up now. So he kept talking about one of our opponent teams that we normally play. He kept talking and he kept saying this and the third. We would go play them without even knowing if they had a team, blase blase. And I'm just like, that had nothing to do with us. Like, you're blindsiding us, you're leaving us hanging financially, because it just baffles me the way they broke it down for us. So I'm just like, okay, you know what, all right, you got it. I was just stuck, and I'm like, okay, so where does that leave us financially? Nisha's from out of state, I'm in state, Jayla's in state, but financially it didn't add up for us to stay when we had other offers. It logically didn't add up. So he kept saying that he wouldn't recommend us transferring because they might not take our credits, blase blase. So he was like, you have to stay, you need to stay, you have no other choice but to stay. So I'm like, all right, financially, where does this leave us? And he was like, he can't talk to us as a whole because each of us have our own situations. So I'm just like, okay, that's fine. The other gentleman went and printed out each of our like signed agreements and our scholarships. And Nisha's mom was like, we signed a 4-year contract, so how are you gonna cut us off? And they stated, it's not a 4-year contract. Whatever you get is a year-to-year ish. So I'm like, okay. So They sat with me first. They explained financially, this, that, and the third. I had the numbers in my head. My mom had the same numbers. We did the math, and we ended up with the same thing. Nisha did her meeting. Jayla did hers through email, I guess. We got back to the dorm, and we were like, we got to figure out what we're going to do. Nisha at the time did not want to talk about it because it was just like, it was extremely overwhelming. I, on the other hand, was ready to figure out what I need to do right here, right now. So I decided that we were going to get an apartment. Nisha, Nikki, and I. And Nikki's boyfriend, so it would have been 4 of us living in an apartment. Nisha was on the fence about it. Nick was like, all right, bet, let's do it. Nikki's boyfriend, I never really talked to him about it. Nikki was the one explaining to like what our idea was, this and the third. So we started apartment looking practically whenever all of us had a day off from work. And we did that for like a good month and a half, almost 2 months. It was draining. It was hard. It was just overwhelming. But I believe like doing the apartment, we would have been saving a lot of money. Because if we didn't do the apartment, it would have been more money out of our pockets. So what he stated was that junior year, the year I'm currently in now, they will honor my scholarship they gave me sophomore year. But my senior year, we were basically SOL and on our own. So I'm like, okay, that's not gonna work. So I made it up in my mind, and my parents were behind me 100%, that an apartment would be a lot cheaper than staying on campus and paying for food. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to do what I gotta do. We looked, we found some. With it being 4 people at certain apartments, it were like under $300. We get to the final 3 weeks that we have left in the semester on campus, and Nisha bailed on the day we were signing to put down for an apartment. She was like, her mom didn't think it was the best idea for now, this and the third. She's just gonna go to the athletic apartments if we were able to get in next semester. I'm like, well, shit. So I was like, all right, whatever we find, we gotta jump on it. So at the time it was technically 3 of us left. That night, Nikki and I signed off on an apartment. That night, Nikki's boyfriend bailed. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, okay. So it was approximately like 3 days after Nikki and I was like, we cannot do a full 3-bedroom apartment and just break it up between 2 people. It doesn't add up. So we were like, all right, fuck the apartment. We're gonna try to get in the on-campus apartments. Yeah, that was a whole nother fight. And they finally approved us of moving to the off-campus apartment, the athletic apartments, and we're supposed to move in January. I'm still on the fence about if I want to go back, to be honest, because this year at school, forget COVID, all the shit I had to deal with at school just makes me not want to go back. If it wasn't for my friends and the connections I had made, I would not go back. I would have left April 8th when I got the email saying they ended the program. I would have left that day. But we are currently in November, trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I have like a month and a half before I'm supposed to move into the apartment in January. We're just going to see if I stay or if I go. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Honestly, we're just gonna have to see, because this year has been ass. I don't even think about it, to be honest. It's just a lot to take in, that like, they recruited you to a school, you went to school, gave them your all just for them to half-ass and cut you off with no logical explanation, no backup plan, and you're just on your own. So that's where we are now. That's why I'm not a D2 athlete anymore. I still have 2 years technically of eligibility, so I can play. If I decide to go to grad school, I can play during grad school, or I can play this year in my senior year at a different school. My mom did not want me to transfer. My grandmother did not want me to transfer. My dad was like, it's your decision at this point. He did want me to go, because they did offer me, like, they offered me so much better than what FSU could ever offer me. No lie there. And he was like, it's your decision. So I'ma see if my offer's still exactly the same. I might put myself in the portal to see if anything else pops up. But yeah, that's where I am right now. Oh, this is a lot to take in. I hope you guys enjoyed me breaking down just sports, life, shit, fuck. Yeah. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment down below any questions, concerns, like anything you like just to tell me. Just comment down below, and I'm gonna see you guys in my next less brain fart video, and I'm gonna just see you guys next time. Traffic's backed up from corner to corner.